It's just brilliant stuff, man. I mean, the characters and the situations, and it's just incredibly original stuff. And the dialogue is just amazing, just amazing. Just a lovely childishness to all these characters with their humour and how they view the world. And they each have, a kind of a strict moral code as well. Even Rafe's character, who one would think is just black and white and just, he's the bad guy, but there's a strict moral code that he lives by, which is just great stuff. There's many references made to Bruges being like a fairy tale town, the canals and the swans and all the Gothic architecture and all that stuff. And it definitely has that feel to it. It has definitely, I mean, you just walk out on the street, it has the feel of some place that's almost stuck in time, The pause button was pressed a long time ago, and although obviously it's, it's a first world country and all that stuff, just being in it, there's a certain weight, I find, to it personally. There's a certain weight to the city which is born of its buildings and just the stone everywhere, just the weight of the stone. But it seems to, it's like nowhere I've ever been before. It's very beautiful, but just very otherworldly. I bumped into her on the set one day, myself and Brandon's character are walking around town, and I see that there's lights over there, and I get all excited, and then I see that there's a midget, and I get even more excited that they're filming midgets. Ray has a bizarre fascination with midgets, which I fully respect, are called little people, but in the script are referred to as midgets. And I meet her that night on the film set, and she's very attractive, as Lamont is, and we go on a date. And there ensues a whole other part of the journey. Yeah.
You don't know anything about these people except it's like a bad marriage. These two guys don't get on very well. And one is quite charmed by the place, and the other is quite sickened by the dullness of it all. And so that's how it opens up. And it turns out that they are two hitmen from Irish hitmen who have been based in London, who have committed a terrible act in London. The younger guy has perpetrated a horrible kind of a crime. And so they come to Bruges to hide out, basically. So they have to they're set up in a hotel for 2 weeks, where one of them is quietly gone out of his mind, obviously, A, from the dullness of the town, but B, also from, the repercussions of what he has done. Harry comes over to Bruges to tackle Ken in a matter of honour, and so the two are coming together. But there's an intimacy, there's a friendship, there's a trust, there's a loyalty between them that's actually quite profound. So again, as in all of Martin's work, there's nothing simple about it. So Rafe's intensity is not just about danger. It's also about the hurt, as you spoke, about the retracing his childhood steps. He had been in Bruges before, and something horrific had emanated from it. He has all sorts of issues about the fact that this friendship is fracturing, that there's a kind of a divorce of the friendship between Ken and Harry. And he's equally wounded, as well as insistent that there's only one way to go with this. So it's not just a danger and intensity. There's a whole other world inside his head. He is a very, very pure artistic kind of soul, and a very curious one, and a very committed one with fantastic integrity. And I can't really speak highly enough of him, other than to say that he's exactly what you want in this business. He's exactly what you need. He's somebody with immense talent, immense sensitivity, and commitment to his work. And generosity of spirit comes into it hugely, And at the same time, there's a focus about where he needs to go. His relationship to his own character is ferociously inquisitive, and it's just been a dream, really. I mean, this is very, very good material. I think it's not difficult to understand why he felt compelled to do the part. The part is a magnificent part, written by a fantastic writer. But they built it in 1428 or something. It was like unbelievable. I mean, it's so picturesque and beautiful and everything like that. Stunningly romantic to look at. Cobbled streets and everything else. And Martin, cleverly enough, has basically set, he stayed here, I believe, and the ideas started to come. So everything has been set in and around these spots. He knows this place very well.
It's centres around 2, 3 great characters. I mean, Colin, Farrell, Brendan Gleeson played 2 Irish hitmen, if you like, holed up in Bruges. So I think everyone who's involved in it is drawn to it because of the writing, the characters, the wit, humour. He's a London businessman of a special kind, the kind that sorts people out with guns and violence if they don't come through for him. He's called Harry Waters, and he has a very particular code of honour. I think he's the sort of man that you're either with him or against him. If you break your word, you're out. If you don't come through for him, you're out. My character thinks it's this beautiful fairy tale city with canals and shit. I have this association with Bruges as being this sort of place where Harry experienced a sort of fairy tale time as a kid. Brendan's character Ken is drawn to it, wants to know about it. Colin's character Ray finds it really boring and it's a pain to be there. I mean, Bruges is beautiful and old, and it's full of little nicky-nacky shops and restaurants, and it's an old city that's now, I think, probably hugely dependent on tourist industry. It's a funny place. It's an interesting, weird atmosphere. I think there is a lot of torment in him. I think this thing I talked about earlier about the childhood thing, he has this explosive rage. He can sort of fly off the handle. He does in a couple of places. I think he's someone who keeps a lid on, but I think underneath if his sense of his world order is disturbed, he goes crazy.
Chloe is a Belgian girl who lives in Bruges, and that Ray meets one night wandering around on a film set because they're shooting a film in Bruges, a classic movie. And he's asking her out on a date, and on that date she turns out to be a special girl doing a very special work, if you can call that a job. But they fall in love with each other, I think. That script is just it's just something you want to be a part of, really. It's just something really cool. You're like, wow, I just want to say those dialogues. I just want to say those lines. And then when you meet Martin, and when you start working with him and talking about the project and the stuff you're going to do together, he's got such a sense of humor and a very nice approach to work and to creating something together. I mean, he's really making you a part of his film, really. And it's been a pretty cool ride. It's been lots of fun, and of course having the opportunity to work with Martin and with such brilliant actors, and I mean, just looking at them, you're using their craft. Is always something good to take in with you. So I'll keep that with me.
Marie is the owner of the hotel where Ray and Ken are sent off to by Harry. And well, she fits in the story in that sense that I think interesting position as a owner of a hotel. You're sensitive to what people come in and sleep in your rooms around you. And till a certain point you can interfere or inform yourself or be a little bit in charge, but there's an absolute line you can't cross. And I think Marie is faced with these particular guests and tries to figure out what's going on. It's really funny and it jumps off the page already, but I really think the casting is really wonderful, and the three leading men, how they don't do their typical thing, so to speak. If they would have that, they don't even have it. But they're cast in a really good way, and the combination is really lifts it up even 100% more. I really love the Irish language or accent, how do you call it? And it really adds to his character. He's just brilliant doing that. And he just becomes a little stupid boy sometimes and plays, kind of naughty. And then he's really very sad and very like cold-hearted or something. It's really, really, really great. I really enjoy it, and it's really funny as well. I hadn't never seen him that funny.
He's a little person actor working on a film set here in Bruges, much like my very own life. He's very disgruntled. He doesn't like playing the part. Probably doesn't like himself too much. He's overindulgent when it comes to drugs and alcohol, and with prostitutes as well. So he's very much the type of person that wants what he wants when he wants it. He has some strange theories about how the world is going to work out. It's such a rich role. It's such a great opportunity to play this character, great opportunity to, we have some similarities, Jimmy and I, but he's got certain opinions and attitudes and angers that I don't necessarily tap into or feel connected to. So that's part of the joy of playing this character, is exploring someone that's somewhat like myself, so I have something to draw on, but not entirely like me, so that I'm actually going somewhere, exploring something. That's another sort of attachment to the richness of Martin's script, is that it does give you an opportunity to really explore your character. Bruges is such an interesting place, and it's really found its way, like I said, like weeds. It's involved itself in our lives, and the script and where we are just sort of blending and starting to connect. So as I say, the surreal is just all around us. It can't be avoided. It's in the ether.
Ken, who's played by Brendan Gleeson, would be the more cultured, map-wielding, church-loving, not church religious-loving, but a person who loves the architecture and the medieval aspects of the town. And Ray, who's played by Colin Farrell, hates all that stuff, doesn't want to be there. He just hates the idea of being anywhere in Europe apart from England or Ireland, basically, and brings all that baggage with it, along with his baggage of guilt and his darkness, all the darkness that entails. They hadn't worked together before, but they'd, I guess, known each other socially, and they'd always wanted to work together before. They completely respected each other's work and what they knew about each other. So it was great having that there from the start. And then we had a long rehearsal period at the start of filming for 3 weeks or so. Most of that was spent just me and Colin and Brendan in a room chatting, drinking coffee, and mostly just analysing the characters, where we all thought they might have come from, their past histories, why they got on, why they didn't get on. And just analysing the arc of the film. There's something quite childlike about the Ray character. He's kind of dangerous, but he's got a beautiful spirit as well. And he's just a very sad, mixed-up guy who doesn't adhere to any of the sort of PC notions that we might. Not because he's trying to attack anything, just because that's the way he is.
It's very, very beautiful. It's extraordinarily gothic. You can't really turn a corner for something amazing to put a camera onto. And in our film, two characters who have to be here are locked into the city, enables you to show more and more of the city in the most extraordinary way. Again, in our film, one of the characters, Colin Farrell, wants to leave the city as quickly as possible. The other character, played by Brendan Gleeson, is very happy sightseeing and looking around old buildings and monuments. So it works very, very well, and Bruges it's a central character, essentially, right in the middle of the film. It's great and looks wonderful. There's nothing everyday about this film. He's taken these larger-than-life characters who speak in extraordinary, interesting and funny and dark ways and put them in this environment where they're allowed to kind of do what he requires them to do, what works for the plot and the film and for their own characters. And he doesn't require them to go to the newsagents or daily, daily things that one might do. They don't necessarily do in an everyday sort of way. Bruges offers something different.